So thank you for being here today on Focus Friday. My name is Chris Fawson. I'm an economics professor. Has anybody been in my classes before? Just one. So don't talk to Jimmy. Just sign up without information, otherwise you'll not want to be in my class. So today we're really fortunate to have Scott Watterson with us. He started what is now Icon, and it is a Cache Valley icon, in addition to the name being Icon.
Thank you.
Extraordinary entrepreneur, extraordinary builder of value for not just this community, but for the world through the products that they produce and the things that they do, the impact they have. And we're here today to sort of pick Scott's brain, try and figure out what can we learn from Scott's experience. And
Not up there, but we'll give it a try.
and he's done a lot of things besides Icon. So his biography is on the Huntsman webpage. I'd encourage you to review that as well. An extraordinary life. And so maybe one place to start, and we'll try and engage as we go. So please feel free to jump in with questions. If you have questions, there is a mic that will travel so that we can all hear. But I'll try and kick off the conversation, and we'll try and see if we can keep it flowing. But tell us what a typical day looks like for you.
Well, exercise, because I'm in the fitness business, so you have to do that early in the morning.
How early?
Well, it depends, right? It depends. Today it wasn't too bad. It was at 8 o'clock, so just a good day of exercise, and then after that, there's a lot of variety, depending on whether you're come speak to some students up at Utah State campus, or whether you're heading out to a business meeting out of town, or whether you've got something to do in the facility. So I think it varies. Not a typical day. I think that's what I enjoy about Icon, is that it's always different. It's changing. What the purpose is. It's an R&D meeting, or it's a product marketing meeting, or it's to deal with human resources, customer service. It's a variety, and having an opportunity to sit at the top of that organization is just a real exciting opportunity, because you get to see a variety of experiences.
How do you prepare yourself for the complexity of issues you face on these days where you're involved in all kinds of different things? I mean, R&D is going to be very different than human resources.
Sure.
Or I assume you have the displeasure of hanging out with attorneys on occasion and
Unfortunately.
deal with legal issues, and just requires a mental flexibility to make adjustments. What do you do to sort of prepare for the challenges that come from managing that kind of complexity?
Well, hopefully your life has prepared you for that, right? So experiences foster learning. Learning hopefully has some retention, and you're able to respond to the new experiences that you face. So education, when you're a student at Utah State, I think that's great. I often wondered if I'd ever apply anything I learned up here. But I found myself applying it. And so sparks of memory will come back from time to time about something a professor said in a class on marketing. I remember, for example, back then, the 6 Ps of marketing, or something that Terrell Williams, an old professor here, would teach, or someone. So you collect experiences as you go through life, and as you collect those experiences, you can apply those to the different opportunities that you have.
Yeah. By the way, feel free to jump in. I'll try and scan the audience. Otherwise, I'm just going to enjoy my time with Scott here and try and figure out.
It'd be a lot better hearing questions from the students, right?
Yeah. So I want to encourage that. One question I have for you, though, is something that, at Utah State University, we have students that come to us with similar experience that you had growing up. You served an LDS mission in Taiwan, and that actually provided a little bit of leverage for how you came back from your mission with ideas about products and opportunities. How do experiences like that, or how have experiences like that really framed your life after that?
Sure.
Maybe
Great
talk a little bit about
question.
that.
So as a missionary, going door to door in Taiwan at the time I went, there were a lot of cottage industry. There were a lot of little businesses in the different villages that we'd go visit and knock door to door. And there, you'd knock on one door and open up, and there'd be sewing machines in there, and there'd be sewing Nike apparel. And you go down 2 more doors, and all of a sudden you'd see them making baskets or something for Crate and Barrel. And so that experience said, wow, look at how entrepreneurial this community is, this far away from the mothership, if you will, of invention, which is the United States. And so that said, well, why couldn't I do something like that? Why couldn't we do something innovative and creative? And so that's how that experience helped apply for when I got back here. And of course, I had some language skills that I'd acquired as a missionary that were helpful in us doing business with Asia early on, and so I think that helped us as well. It wasn't a moment, it wasn't a one light bulb coming off, it's a series of experiences that you get that help you create that opportunity. I think we live in an idea world right now. There's a lot of opportunities for you as you are smart about what you're doing, as you think about this time more than any other time, a good idea can make it to the market. That's it. Just be creative, come up with some good idea, and there's access to capital. There's never been. There's group funding. There's Shark Tank. There's venture capitalists on every corner. There's plenty of money. And what the market is hungry for and is anticipating is the next idea. And so ideas, this is an era of ideas. So the opportunity to work hard, of course, and also work smart is what I think really makes a difference in the world. And so you've seen the likes of Facebook and Groupon and Uber, and the list is long, right, of people who've come from an idea and delivered it to the market in a compelling way so that it's marketable and successful. So 4 steps, if we could, on the idea side. One is you first create. The ability to create something new is oftentimes your entry into a marketplace. It's just a creation. If not that, then the next step or along that journey is to innovate, where you will innovate something. So you take someone else's creation or your own creation, if it be, and then you innovate it. You make it so it's one step better. You come up with something new. So in our business, we had a treadmill. That would be the invention, the creation, and then along the way, we innovated it and made it so it's space safe, so it would get out of the room after you're through exercising. That simple innovation created an enormous uproar of interest. And so that's the innovation step. So after that, the next step is to iterate. You need to iterate on whatever it is. And you see iteration after iteration. I mean, I think Apple is amazing at how they iterate on their iPhone. And they update it constantly and they improve it. They're constantly making incremental changes to improve the outcome and the user experience. And so that's another way to be an idea-focused company, is to iterate on a good idea. And then above all, this market we live in today requires communication. So you can have the best idea and it can sit dormant for years unless you know how to communicate. That marketing, that communication skill really differentiates companies. And you see some very phenomenal companies that have done a great job of marketing. Nike is a kingpin, if you will, in that era. Apple is another one. Some of their famous ads are still recognized in business classes throughout the world for what they've done. So again, create, innovate, iterate, and then communicate. One of the concerns that I might proffer for you to consider is, with the advent of the internet and the constant demands that your fingers and thumbs have require to communicate. Now, there are times I see that we miss out on the old form of communication, eyeball to eyeball, ear to mouth. And I think that would be a way to differentiate yourself as you go out into the marketplace, as you look for jobs, as you create businesses, is if you can focus on communication skills. Because the good ideas will come as you apply yourself to that, but then you have to communicate them. And the way to deliver that message in a way that separates you from the pack, I think will serve you well. So I just suggest you socialize your experience while you're on campus. I don't mean that you're not supposed to get sleep at night, but enjoy your experience and interactions. Enjoy being around people. Enjoy talking with people, and learn how to get your point across in a compelling way. How about that?
Those are really great ideas. Thanks for sharing those. Question?
What are some of the biggest challenges that you face in your industry, both now and in the future, that you see?
Well, in the past, the question of fitness was considered possibly a fringe appetite at best. It wasn't a mainstream trend. It wasn't necessary. Of course, through the years, with the piling on of all the medical all of the research and development in the medical community and the need now for fitness, all of a sudden it's becoming a very trendy, trend positive area. And having served in the beginning as the CEO of Icon, and now with the trend as our friend, I can assure you that following a trend is much better, much more enjoyable than when you're trying to convince somebody that it's a trend or it's necessary. So we right now, Icon, live at a time where fitness is mainstreaming itself, where we know we need it. Diabetes is curtailed. Cancers, all types of heart diseases are reduced, if you will, with exercise. Mental health is a big challenge that we face, both here on campus and throughout the world right now. And as you exercise, it stimulates endorphins, and it creates an opportunity for you to become more mentally alert and stable. And so right now we're just trying to capitalize on that trend. We're trying to find ways to make sure that we give access to fitness in different ways. We see fitness in 4 major areas. Maybe this will surprise you. One is, of course, exercise. That's the one that you'd think would do well with treadmills, ellipticals, bikes, running. But the other 3 areas are somewhat different. Another area is, of course, just activity, your daily activity. So how close did you park to campus? Did you walk? Did you ride a bike? You know, what are you doing as you go to lunch? And how active are you in your day? And that makes a big difference in the total outcome. After that, sleep. Sorry to bring this up again. This is the second time we're talking about sleep with students. I understand when you're a freshman at Utah State, your average sleep is about 3 hours a night. And by the time you graduate, you're back up to 6. Well, 8 would be a good number, by the way, just for the record. Not that that would be something we'd actually see, but the sleep affects your fitness. It affects your stability, your health. It affects your happiness. And if you have a bad night's sleep and then you go try to run a marathon the next day, it's not going to happen. It's going to be very difficult. And so we're now studying sleep. And we're realizing the REM sleep that you get in an evening is really critical to your next day's how you feel and how you're able to exercise and be fit. So the next area is sleep. Then after that is nutrition. Top ramen is not the answer. I've had my share of it. It's great. But you need to have a good balance. And sorry, grandma's the ones who told you that, but it's really true. You need to have a really balanced nutrition. So a company like Icon says, okay, how can we address those 4 quadrants and make them something that's compelling? Well, in November, we'll launch something called the Coach. It's a totally interactive, smart technology that incorporates data points of your personal life in those 4 areas, and then combines to give you individual, customized sleep, nutrition, diet, cooking resume of what you should eat, and your exercise. So, is this still on?
Yeah.
So if you've had a bad night's sleep, then I'm probably going to give you a smaller regimen on your treadmill. And if you've worked really hard and active in the day, you'll have a different work exercise. So we measure calories and we measure all of that and integrate that in a smart technology. So that's what we're doing right now. And you'll be able to go down to your treadmill and it will say, hello, John or Joe or Mary or whoever, and you will have your own personalized workout. And it might be running the beaches of Donkey Beach in Hawaii, or it might be climbing Mount Everest, and you'll have a video representation with a personal trainer right there with you every step of the way, and that's coming in December. So that's where the world's headed.
Is that something that's going to be through iFit?
Yes. Good job. Yeah. That's, yep.
As the co-founder of Icon Health and Fitness, and I guess as a leader in your business, what would you consider to be your greatest leadership strengths, and how did you develop them?
First of all, I don't think it's, you spend a lot of time on that. That's your selfish evaluation of yourself sometimes can present itself in the wrong light. But I do think building teamwork is critical. I do think surrounding yourself with individuals that have differing opinions, that are creative, that are smart, and loyalty, such that you can create the 1 + 1 = 3 environment at work. I think that's critical. Challenging an individual in a positive way to think out of the box, to expand their capacities, to reach into their reservoir of experiences and pull something out that will allow them to be additive to the process of whatever it is that I'm working on. I think that's really important. I have to talk today, so forgive me for this because it won't sound genuine, but the older I get, the more I realize listening is the most critical step. And the more you listen, the more you lead. Okay.
Your mic seems to be going in and out. You may want to switch.
That's, well, that's okay. We'll just let Chris answer the question.
I think it's because it's bouncing, it's kind of mispositioned there. You might just hold it.
I'll just hold it. Is that better?
Yeah, I think. you're
Okay,
in better
good.
shape there.
Yes.
Could you expand on when you first started your business, what the first steps were in that?
Well, my 2 partners, Gary Stevenson, now Elder Stevenson, and Brad Sorensen, now Brad Sorensen, the 3 of us were students here at Utah State. And of course, we were all in business. And while we were in business, we thought, well, we ought to apply some business. Gary had served his mission in Japan, I had served mine in Taiwan, and Brad had served his in New Zealand. The only thing at the time we could get out of New Zealand was sheepskins. And so we tried that, but that didn't work. But we all have our own sheepskin because of Brad. After that, we realized that Taiwan could introduce us to some new product ideas that we otherwise couldn't find in a cost-effective way. And so we decided to do that. And we started the business while we're students at Utah State. And it was a great time because we didn't realize the challenges of starting a business because we were young, dumb, and enthusiastic. And dumb not in a dense way, but naive. And that time of your life when you are naive to the obstacles that get in your way of success is a great time. So I encourage you all to realize you're at that time of your life where you can explore ideas and bring them to market. It's a great time.
I want to just follow up on that because I think there's great insight in that. This notion of, being naive, I want to think of that as really playing bigger than you are or having
Sure.
aspirations to play a lot bigger than you are and being confident, but that can't be hollow, right? I mean, you actually do have to deliver product at some point.
Yeah.
Did you have experiences where you felt like, wow, we have way overpromised. We're going to have to work, the next 180 hours full-time straight in order to deliver on that commitment? And then stepping back from that and saying, wow, we actually can accomplish a lot more than maybe we thought we could. And maybe how those kinds of experiences refined your strategies or taught you something about yourself that you wouldn't have learned in another context?
Sure, I'll give you one experience. We first started selling marble tiles, flooring, and then marble hearths for fireplaces. And as the three of us would go take turns making sales up and down the Wasatch Front, we found that we wanted to be bigger than we were.
Yeah.
We wanted to convince somebody that we had a business behind our idea. And so we would, in meetings, I can remember saying, well, here's the product, and, my delivery arm of the company can deliver it, next week. And I remember our first office was on top of a local bank here, and so it was always fun to suggest that we had a lot more assets underneath us than we really did. And so what we would do is whoever made the sell, the next guy would put on the overalls and be the deliverer of the product. So that was our delivery department. Yeah, it's not, vibrato doesn't really get you too far, though. I would suggest that genuine sincerity, recognizing who and where you're at, what level, and particularly in the market today, everybody appreciates new, emerging opportunities. So be comfortable in your own skin. Be comfortable with being a startup, if that's the thing we're talking about. Be comfortable as you go to work and you're in a new division or a new department, a new organization, to acknowledge that to your customers and to your peers and all those that you have to engage with. And that confidence, being comfortable with yourself, will go a long way, because at the end of the day, someone's looking at you and making a decision as to whether they buy into that idea based on the feeling they get of the competency of the idea and the sincerity of the person delivering the message.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So being a businessman, or being successful comes with sacrifice you have to make. Are there any sacrifices you would advise you shouldn't make as a businessman? Are there anything like that you held on to even when it seemed like it needed to be spent somewhere else, like in the business?
Great question. Are there any sacrifices that I wish I wouldn't have made? Is that another way to ask that, or no?
No, that you would advise against making, like priorities that you always manage to keep in your life despite saying we've got all this.
Yeah. Don't ever procrastinate the day of your repentance, whatever that means. I would advise that. I do think that I see sometimes we believe there's an order of life that needs to follow. If you're going to start a business, that maybe you don't pursue a long-term committed relationship with someone until after it gets started. I would advise against that. I would suggest that you enjoy the life that you have and that you don't postpone those opportunities because they enrich and strengthen your business opportunities. They give you more experience and more completeness as you approach them. So that's one thing I would advise you to not sacrifice. Education. It's easy at times to come up with a great idea and drop out of school and not complete something. It's easy when you get into your second year or third year of school and you say, wait, this isn't really helping me. I could do better by just going out on my own. That is wrong. I think you shouldn't sacrifice the benefit of education for the short-term benefit of creating a business. Do them together. We really have a lot more capacity than we use. We really do, and we really can balance life with the opportunities and the ideas that we're coming up with as we go through it. So if that's a sense, stay balanced, stay active, be physically fit. Don't set that aside, because then you're going to be in real trouble. So keep yourself balanced as you're going through this exciting time of your life.
Maybe, speaking of balance, what tools did you use or do you use for time management in your life? And how long did it take to kind of establish a routine with your family and with your business about what your schedule was going to be and how that would work?
Well, on the onset, I said the only thing I try to do every day is exercise. After that, the best tool I've got is a yellow notepad, and I write on the top of it things to do. And so many of you have used other types of planners, and you certainly have access on your iPhones to collect a lot of that. But I suggest that you write down the list of things you are hoping to accomplish that day or that week. And then the key is that this is my mistake as well as many of yours probably, is you do such a thing, then you will go to the ones that are easy to accomplish because you can check them off the list. That's the mistake. Evaluate the things to do, which ones will make a difference. Look at those first and spend your time there. And then if you don't get that box checked, at least you've developed and progressed along the path that you need to with that. So I prioritize on importance instead of on ease.
I have a follow-up question that comes back to when you're talking about your broad strategy, and also when you're talking about, maybe elements of how you prioritize. And that is, as I talk to a lot of students, they want to really compartmentalize their life, right? So for example, let's say like you, they served an LDS mission. They'll come home and they'll say, great experience, put that on a shelf. It's now unrelated to anything else I do. I may bring it down on Sunday and talk about it, but otherwise, it isn't integrated with sort of how I see my life unfolding. I don't see how I can leverage that by what I do as a student or by what I do as in my other human interaction. And as you've been talking, I get the sense that your life is much more seamless than that.
Yeah.
That you figured out ways to break down those barriers of compartmentalization. And I think a lot of students have a really hard time doing that. Do you have any counsel about maybe how you look at life as one seamless integrated process rather than, in your role as, say, a father or a husband, and that's this part of you, and your activity in your church or in your community is another part of you, and your role as a leader in your business is another part. How do you break those down and say they're really all integrated together and define a fulfilling life experience as a whole?
Well, first of all, recognizing, can you still hear me? Okay. Recognizing that you are not a compartmentalized individual is really important. We're taught from a young age there's a separation of state and church. We're taught that there is work. It starts at a certain time and it ends at a certain time. And so that's what we're taught, and that unfortunately is not the case. I can't separate the brain that I have. I can't separate my body. I am a person, and as such, I need to figure out a way to integrate my experiences in a way that will be complete and satisfactory into who I am. And I think that's really a mistake that we oftentimes make. You've learned today that my experiences as a missionary, for example, helped me in business. I didn't separate them. It would have been a shame if we would have put them on the shelf after we got home. My experience is one of our best innovations in Icon was one that my wife came up with, and that's that space-saving treadmill. It's a simple idea that where we're able to fold the treadmill out of the house. We received several patents. We've received tens of millions of dollars for patent awards on that. Well, I have to confess, that's my wife's idea, not mine. And so separating that experience at home from my business would have been detrimental to me. So those are two examples. I said earlier that what I learned in Terrell Williams's class on marketing, the 6 Ps of marketing, have applied to my life even to this day. Earlier on, I suggested that you are a collection of experience. Well, if you're compartmentalizing those experiences and not putting up walls so they can't flow together, you're just hurting yourself. So where you came from, whether it's rural America, whether it's international environment, it informs your opportunities and helps you. And so I would embrace being complete. I would encourage you to utilize and put all aspects of your life together. You shouldn't be any different at work, at home, or at play. That's too complicated. Keep it simple, keep it easy, be one person, and enjoy the broad experiences you get in the different aspects of your life.
Question?
When hiring new graduates, what do you say is the number one quality that you look for or you admire?
Number one, of course, is experience. Well, as a graduate, you don't have a lot. So, but there again, you had experience doing something, either a part-time job, you had experience with learning how to play the piano, you had experience with something, a mission or something. So recognize that when you're doing your interview and apply that experience into the interview you're having so that you can relate to that fundamental first hurdle of experience. And don't be embarrassed of it. Just recognize it. If it's playing on a football team, learning the principles of teamwork, that's something that you should put forward. After that, the thing that I look for, and I encourage all of my managers to look for, is loyalty, integrity, hard work. So if you're in an interview for Icon, make sure you hit those points. Okay.
That's really, really helpful. So you're obviously very busy person. How do you find time to sort of challenge your views of the world? Do you read all the time? How do you collect new information that allows you to look at yourself and say, wow, I actually thought this way for 50 years and now I see that there's probably something wrong with that. Sort of that self-reflection, the capacity to be challenged and see the world in a new way.
Our business is 40 years old, and there's no way it could survive 40 years or the next 40 years unless it's able to change. Changes are so dramatic. You just take, for example, in retail, where you buy your goods today is such a different venue than where you used to buy them. The creation of online retailing, Amazon and the likes, have just reintroduced retail. And so if we were one channel dependent before and we just sold to brick and mortar retailers, for example, we'd be in trouble. But constantly challenging the environment that you're in and recognizing that it's not going to last is critical. And so we make sure that if you think of the ocean and you go to surf, and I'm not a surfer, so this probably won't work real well, but I'm going to give it a try. But when I have gone on vacation and I go stay on a beach property somewhere and I look out the window in the morning, I find that some days the surfers are on this end of the lagoon, and then the other days they're way down on the other side. And so it's important, for example, that you have a broad enough shoreline so you can be where the surfers are. If you're in the business of surfing, you want to multiple channels of distribution are really critical. So we do specialty, we do mass retailers, we do discounters, we address online retailing, direct to consumer retailing, the whole approach to reviews and keyword buys online. I mean, that's just an ever-changing world. So that's wonderful. If you accept change is good, and that you will just look for it. The most important thing to do is when you're comfortable somewhere, realize that something else is coming that will make you uncomfortable, and be prepared for it. So that's the consistency is change, and I would encourage you to be able to deal with that. And the way you deal with that is you have some core values that never change. Who you are, what makes you tick. Coming back to this other question about one of the things that we look to in an interview is probably an intangible, and that's really, who are you? You know, what are the things of your heart and soul? And that's hard to ask in the world we live in today, because it can come across as incriminating or inquiring in areas of personal life that you can't. But to the extent you can know who you are, and to the extent the interview can know who you are, that makes all the difference in the world. And as you know who you are, then you can live in a changing world. And you got to, because the way you get a taxi today is different than the way we got one yesterday. And tomorrow will be different. Today's Amazon, tomorrow is who and how. Will it be delivered by drones, and how will we source product, and the more customization of product is coming like rapid fire at us. It's individual customized product. So how do you mass manufacture that idea? And so you're going to be challenged with those new ideas. This is the season of change, and it's not bad, it's good, as long as you stay solid with who you are.
Question?
What question have we not asked yet that we should have asked, and what's the answer to it?
What time is dinner, and am I invited? Oh. Well, let me just ask a couple questions. Was that okay?
Yeah,
Can I do that?
absolutely, please.
Okay. And I'll start with you. Those good-looking Nike red shoes. By the way, we have a very fast-growing shoe company. It's called Ultra Shoes. You should try them out. Runner's World, it is truly the fastest-growing shoe company, especially run shoe company in the world right now. It's awesome. It was some students that unfortunately they went to another school, and I won't name it because I'd be thrown off the podium. But they were students and they were runners, and we used to run on a big hill and a narrow toe box, and that was uncomfortable and it didn't work, and you'd have a lot of pain and problems. So what they'd do is they'd cut off the foam off the back of the heel of the shoe and run on it. And they realized that was a really good idea. About that time, Born to Run book came out where people were running, without shoes and all that, and trying to run on the ball of your foot instead of running on your heel. And so they came up with a shoe, and it was a great idea. And fortunately, we had some capital, and we bought the idea. We bought the opportunity, and we asked the 3 students to run it. And they are now running the fastest growing shoe company in the country, Ultra Shoes. And we're applying our little magic to the idea and to the process, and there's a great outcome. So I guess I want to ask you this question. What do you want with your business career?
I want to help people reach their potential through sound principles and effective mentoring. That's my goal.
Sounds like you want to coach somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want that, then I'd suggest that you find opportunities to experience that while you're a student. You shadow somebody who's maybe in the consulting or in the counseling, that you look in. There's a lot of coaching going on. There's business coaching, there's personal fitness coaching. We could always get you on as a personal fitness trainer. But I would find the area of interest you have and see if you can shadow that person and get that experience. So that's good, okay? Now, another question. Why are you in business? Why aren't you in psychology or history or applied, economic? Well, excuse me. I guess that's business, isn't it?
Here it is.
Yeah,
but
other places it's not.
With political science.
Right. And isn't that the interesting world we find ourselves in today? Yeah. But let me just ask the audience a question. Why are you in business? If you look at me for 3 seconds, I'm going to ask you to answer the question. Go ahead. The girl 3 rows back in the aisle. Yeah. If you don't mind.
Well, at least for me, I think what decided why I wanted to be in business is it was something I got excited about. I remember it kind of nerded out. I remember my accounting class when the balance sheet first balanced for me. I had a total nerd out. I was so excited, and it was something.
You got excited about a balance sheet.
I got excited about a balance sheet, and it was.
Wow.
I don't know. It was weird, but I think it's just one of those things you recognize that it's what you think about when you don't have to think about anything, and that's what I realized what I was thinking about, and it was something I wanted to learn more about, and it hasn't gotten boring yet.
Awesome. Good, great answer. Way to be there. Let's ask another one. Why are you in business? How about the tall drink of water on the aisle with the blue socks? Yeah.
Well, I think I discovered in myself early on that I have a lot of good natural leadership instincts. And I wanted to associate myself with other people that also had those qualities. And I also felt like it was the best place that I could network, that I could meet with a lot of people that are similar to me and come up with ideas and surround myself with just good quality students and people.
Great. Well, I think that's awesome. I went into the School of Business here at the time because I didn't have to take very many math classes. And I really didn't have to, I didn't have an appetite for some of the other areas. And so it was a default decision in part. In fact, I waited till my senior year to take my first math class, which at the time was allowed. Now you have all got smarter, and you have to take those math classes even to be accepted into the school. I took the class. I was terrified of it because I just knew I couldn't. I had this mental block. I couldn't do it. I will forever be grateful for the teacher. She was a teacher's aide at the time, and she came across in a very, in a way that I could say to myself, well, if she knows and can teach math, then certainly I can learn it. She had no false pretense or arrogance. She was right down at my level, like, are you serious? You can really do this? And so she knocked out a roadblock for me. By halfway through the semester, I was her teacher's aide because I'd scored so well on the first two tests. And I eventually got, of course, an A in that class, and then I learned to enjoy math. To this day, I enjoy math, where before I hadn't enjoyed math. Before I went on my mission, I barely had high enough grades to be eligible to play football at Snow College. I had to take a music appreciation class because that's the only professor that liked football players, and that helped me. Now, in today's world, you couldn't do that, of course. And I still had to pass the class. I came back from my mission, realized the importance of learning, and all of a sudden, I graduate cum laude or whatever it is from Utah State with a 3.85 GPA. I did that with a change here. And so I guess the one thing that you haven't asked is, and what I'd want you to ask yourself is, what's stopping you? What is it? What are you anxious about? Find that and find a way to overcome that, because within you is the ability to do so. There's greatness in every one of us. And if you can just find that area and apply yourself to that, then you'll find happiness and success, and fear runs off of the plate and opportunity comes roaring in. So I guess that's the way I'd suggest that I'd invite you to do that.
That is great counsel to end on. So thank you so much, Scott, for being here with us today and sharing your perspectives and insight, letting us celebrate a little bit of the extraordinary success of ICON with you, and celebrate a life well lived and having a great impact, not just in business, but in the community. You're a valued part of our family, and we really appreciate you taking time to be with us today. And so,
thank you very much. Go Aggies. Let's start winning those football games. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
What a great place. This is Utah State is the very best university. You are at the right place at the right time. And the Huntsman School of Business is an awesome, look at this building, look at these professors, capitalize on it. Realize that you are sitting in a great place at a great university. This university is accelerated way past any other university in the state of Utah. It's a new campus, new buildings, new energy, new growth. We're ahead of the game in almost every area, and it's in large part because of why? Well, you might say we have a great university professor, we might have great deans, and that's true. And I take my hat off to them. But it's in large part because of you. And that's what makes the difference. So be an Aggie, and let's go win the rest of the season. Thank you.
Thank you.